afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Addendum with me, our host Imperial Dane, and here we are having a bit of a quick overlook at the commander revamp and the sort of overall changes that we're making on the different commanders, not just in the commanders themselves, but also potentially overflow effects on other, commanders, which primarily will be the Soviets and the Wehrmacht. But there'll be a few other cases where there's a bit of slightly more overlapping going on. Of course, there'll be a video going up once we've sort of got even more specific patch notes discussing those and all the further specifics, the nitty-gritties. But for now, sort of just a quick overview so we can get an idea of what's going to be happening here, either when the patch goes up today or tomorrow. We don't know the specific, or if it gets delayed further, so could be either way. But anyways, for the Americans, it is Armor Company and Mechanized Company that receive the changes. For Armor Company, no new ability to change. Basically, assault engineers get slightly tougher. They become a 5-man squad, so essentially assault grenadiers with a few different abilities there. The elite vehicle crews upgrade now becomes a passive upgrade, so basically all the vehicle crews just get better straight up. They can repair faster. I believe they gain veterancy faster, I think, and they also get, Thompsons right away. So, pretty decent upgrade there. Gives them some more utility there. The M10 gets a bit cheaper and it gains the flanking speed right away. The bulldozer sham becomes better versus infantry, a bit more nasty there. Not as good as the Sturmpanzer, but essentially a not quite as good Sturmpanzer, but with a turret, which makes it pretty good. Additionally, the 204mm Howitzer barrage also gets some changes, but overall, nothing that really affects any of the other doctrines in the slightest. Moving on with mechanized. Some changes there. Raid tactics is replaced with combined arms. The Dart Track and the Half Track are combined into one ability. They're now buildable rather than call-ins. The Mortar Half Track remains, though the Explosive Grenades thing there gets buffed, which actually also means infantry gets a slight buff, since that Mortar Half Track also benefits from that. So, a little note there. And, no, Tactical Support didn't have it. Just briefly there. Unsure about that. Additionally, the 76mm Sherman also gets some changes there. Additionally, gains more penetration on the higher speed. And also gains HVAC rounds, sort of as an ability to can switch between those and regular rounds, or some other armor-piercing round, which, by the way, also benefits the Soviet Lend-Lease doctrines. That's probably the only case where it's between armies there's sort of any major benefit there. So those are sort of the overall changes there. Again, slightly bigger here, with some slight overlap into another doctrine, meaning overall total of 3 American doctrines end up being affected by this. The ones that actually change directly, and then the one that gains sort of the slight indirect change. Additionally, of course, this doctrine also gains the Cavalry Rifleman, though they keep misspelling it as Cavalry. That's a bit unfortunate. It's Cavalry Rifleman, which is essentially a 5-man squad with submachine guns. So this is kind of like assault grenadiers or the assault engineers, but they do have access to smoke grenades, anti-tank satchels, and some covering fire as well as suppressive fire in a sense, though it doesn't directly suppress. And they can be upgraded with the Thompson, so they do have a bit more, shall we say, utility that way, and some other nifty bonuses. So Mechanized Company definitely gains a big boost. Armor becomes a bit more useful, but again, I feel like Mechanized sort of really gets the fat one. And again, slight benefit for Infantry Company. Moving on to the British, it is Royal Artillery that gains the benefit, and it is Tactical Support that gains the benefit here. Of course, with some slight overlaps here and there. So looking at Royal Artillery, what happens there? Basically, not really a lot. I mean, basically, I said basically way too many times. Basically, might as well commit to a pen. Anyways, the Valentine gets buffed, it does more damage, gains some other small benefits, nothing big there. The Sexton gains a better AoE, so overall it does more impact in terms of when it's fired. So one of the issues was it just didn't do a lot of damage when shooting, and it gains some improvements to its barrage ability as well there, so that's nice. And Perimeter Overwatch, rather than using the 25-pounder guns, actually just calls off artillery up from elsewhere, so it just becomes sector Overwatch ability. That's been quite useful locking down an area. So overall becomes better. Overall, none of the other doctrines benefit from this. The bigger one here is Tactical Support Regiment. Designated command vehicle goes out, they gain a Crocodile. Forward Observation Point Artillery Cover receives some changes as well. The air resupply operation becomes in some ways more useful. It drops mortars now as well for the British to use, and some other bits that I think also a bit cheaper. The field recovery operation also gains 1 sapper instead, of course, we can do all that, so it becomes a more useful ability. Additionally, the Crocodile, which then of course means other doctrines like Vanguard and Special weapons gains a benefit as well, but gains a buff to its gun and can fire smoke shells like the Cromwell and the Comet. Additional artillery car receives some slight changes, and I think it actually requires now being called in from a building. Forward observation post can now be built as an additional structure rather than just having to use a neutral building for that. So there are some slight benefits to that one as well. So that covers it. I mean, again, the big one is, again, just, crocodiles. So we'll gain some changes there. Additionally, British sappers can now throw anti-tank grenades. Cheeky. Moving on to the Soviets. There we go. The Soviets. Much bigger overlaps here, of course. But basically, NKVD gets the changes, and urban defense. For urban defense, a bit like the forward observation post, the fort headquarters can now be built as a separate building. So that's a bigger one. The M42 gains a buff, it can fire canister rounds, but otherwise just performs better, stronger. So of course also means that defensive doctrine gains a slight buff. The armoured vehicle detection ability, I believe, is replaced. Booby traps are now built by engineers. And also less impactful, they can't quite wipe a unit. And the armoured vehicle detection bar is replaced with an ability called Scorched Earth, which is sort of like a booby trap as well. Oh wait, no it's not, that's the wrong doctrine, that is the NKVD. That is the NKVD. Instead, it gains shock troopers, which by the way get buffed. And by the way, now the grenades don't share cooldown, so they can throw both smoke and explosives. That's going to be a cheeky one. Incendiary artillery barrage is replaced with the KV2 as well. So there's some slight changes. In addition, the KV2 gains buffs, and its capture infantry or capture territory ability replaced with a inspire infantry ability, which can basically for a brief time boost nearby infantry, making them shoot faster and move faster. So those are some bigger changes there overall, and of course affects numerous doctrines. Shock trooper buffs means terror tactics get buffed, shock army gets buffed. Let's see. So many actually. Shock rifle gets buffed. Shock motor gets buffed. That's a lot of doctrine that basically benefits straight up from just that one small change to the shock troops. Of course, the KV2 getting buffed also benefits. You guessed it, certain industry, since that KV2 gets better as well. And of course, again, as mentioned, defensive doctrine slightly benefits as well from a better anti-tank gun, though not massively, but it's better, and that's a start. That's a start. And of course, counterattack tactics. So many doctrines, by the way, for the Soviets have shock troopers in them, so it's actually a bit tricky there to keep them all in mind. Also, anti-infantry. Again, just so many doctrines with shock troopers in them. Honestly, at this stage, they probably just try and create different versions of shock troopers, honestly, just to help differentiate them better. So, there you go. Big changes there. And of course, NKVD, radio intercept stays. The rest are essentially replaced. You get the NKVD officer, who's kind of like the assault officer. He can, though, call in a many greater number of abilities. Can also heal troops. And he also does enforce retreat when he gets killed, if I remember correctly. So that's a, serious change. And he can't be merged with, which is to avoid a bug. It gets the KV8 tank, which also gets buffed and also gets the Inspire Infantry. So again, lots of doctrines there benefiting. It gets the Scorched Earth ability, which is sort of this ability that, again, kind of works like a booby trap, except it calls in incendiary artillery and disables the point. So very cheeky ability. In addition, it gets an anti-tank sort of artillery call-in, which basically just targets your enemy tanks that is not your tanks. We're not talking Russian tank dogs, but enemy tanks with artillery if they're within the sector. So some larger changes. Then, of course, again, similarly to how the shock changes benefited a bunch of doctrines, the KV8 changes will benefit a bunch. Terror attacks with some of both shocks from the KV8 gains a notable buff there. Nothing for shock army. Sword industry in theory gains a buff here. Shock rifle gains a bigger one since the KV8 and the shock troopers get better. Who knows? Might see some more shock rifle then. So that's something that's happening there. And of course, anti-infantry gains a buff. So as you can see there, as you sort of hit the older armies, we again have a lot more commanders, but also importantly, commanders with a lot more overlapping elements, which is sort of one of the criticisms there. There's just a lot of things getting rehashed. I mean, a lot more doctrines suddenly become, a bit better. And of course, again, we got Lend-Lease Tactics, which gets a slightly better M4C Sherman. So again, even there, again, that's again the only inter-army, change a little bit, two army change there. Moving on to the Oberkommando West, it is Elite Armored and it is Overwatch that receives some changes here. So what happens here? I mean, for Elite Armored, no real nobility except they get the 221 that can upgrade to the 223 emergency repairs, and I believe signal relay are sort of meshed into one ability, so that's sort of more of a passive thing. Heat rounds remains. The Sturmtiger gets buffed in some ways, changed in others. It can actually suppress a lot of units now, by the way, so that makes it, more useful in that sense. I think it become less, one-hit kill, but on the hand again can really just mess things up. The Panzer Commander gets a big buff. It just buffs the tank's accuracy, so that can be useful in some ways, but also the artillery call-in, which is call-in, is much more useful. Emergency repairs gets cheaper and, repairs more, so it's not just, slight better health and you always do nothing with your tank. And the signal relay, I think, again, is just sort of mashed together with something else. Might even be removed. And the 221, 223 can be used to, well, harass, seize territory, but can also be used when upgraded to actually lock down territory to gain you more resources. So it has some utility, and at Veteranly 5, it can lay down regal mines, though. The question is, does it ever get there? And with Overwatch, a lot of changes there as well. Goliath, Fort Receiver, Early Warning, just slapped together into one big thing, with Jaeger Infantry being added, which, by the way, gains some changes as well. They have to buy the sniper rifles, but on the other hand, they gain a bunch of other bonuses. They gain ambush bonus. Additionally, the sniper rifles pretty much suffer next to no penalties from being shot at units in either garrisons or on cover, so they become a lot more useful in dealing with those gentlemen. Additionally, all booby traps, by the way, should point out, are changed more or less into the same things. The Soviet, the German booby traps pretty much all function the same now, so they do all the same damage and all that, so bit of realignment there. But yeah, basically Jaeger Infantry here, which of course means that Scavenge gains a slight buff. Not a big one, just a slight. Sector Assault, by the way, becomes a lot more accurate, just not dumping it all over the place, but sort of actually trying to hit targets. That's a big one as well. And finally, the Doctrine gains a howitzer, which also receives some other slight changes, including it can fire a direct shot at the enemy at Veteranly 5, basically an anti-tank shot, which also stun up the tank, which means fortification gains a bit. So, I mean, essentially 4 Doctrines will receive changes here. Also, note, these not matched built together. Signal Relay and Emergency Repair Crews. Signal Relay is just replaced by the 221, 223, just quickly locked it up there. So, some change there again. 4 Doctrines overall benefit from these changes, so that's a small huzzah there. Finally, move on to the Wehrmacht. So here with the Wehrmacht, again, a few changes, but they have wider impact. So what are we changing here? Well, there is Defensive Doctrine, which basically gets the bigger changes here, at least some of them. Entrenching tunes, defensive fortifications, smacked together. Hold down is removed. Ostrom are added instead. And the Pack 43 emplacement is switched together with another thing, that is the new added concrete bunkers. We'll have to see if they actually overhaul the art a bit from Company as one, but it's basically those bunkers. Except you built either machine gun bunker, built a concrete bunker, which is an upgrade to the repair bunker, rather than just, for some reason, just being able to build straight up the repair bunker. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one. But either way, that's sort of one of the bigger changes. Sector 3 now it's not just the sector itself, but the adjacent sectors. It all becomes a bit more useful. And finally, the Stugi is also added to the Doctrine, and that one is getting buffed with more AoE and is also being made tougher. So yeah, the Stugi becomes a lot better basically from this. So overall, Defensive Doctrine becomes a slightly different Ostrom Doctrine, probably one that is more used because it has more useful abilities for the most part and has a call-in Stugi. So those are some bigger changes there. Basil seems very upset about something. Finally, we have the German Infantry Doctrine, which sees a large hit of alls as well. A lot of abilities are essentially being removed and replaced. So what is sort of replaced with, essentially, I mean, again, more or less the entire Doctrine is overhauled, but essentially the 250 half-track is added, an infantry upgrade is added, so basically, increase the size of a lot of units. We'll get into that a bit further on. Stormtroopers are added, and tactical moves specifically replaced with an ability called Assault and Hold. I think the only thing that remains is the Fragmentation Bomb, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, for starters, you basically get the one upgrade that allows you how to upgrade your Pioneers and Grenadiers with a 5th man. In the case of the Grenadiers, they gain a G43. They lose their ability upgrade with the MG42. but they also do more damage and they become a bit harder to kill. So that's a really big upgrade for the Grenadiers. 5-man Grenadiers is huge, and of course overall more DPS is also big, and 5-man Pioneers by means you can repair your tanks faster. Additionally, the Panzer Grenadiers gain an upgrade where they basically can sort of work with tanks. So if they're near a vehicle, they actually become harder to kill and they move faster. Additionally, they gain access to a mark vehicle ability or mark infantry ability, which by of course means any unit shooting in that squad takes 30% more damage. The Panzers meanwhile take 15% more shots hit at them. So bit of a trade-off there, but pretty big if used correctly. Additionally, they can also repair tanks, but at a pretty slow rate. So they gain a bit of utility there, but that's in itself pretty exciting. The Stormtroopers, of course, added. They had themselves receiving some bigger changes as well. Apparently, they felt they were too close to the Panzer Grenadiers. But basically, they gain access to, instead of the assault rifles, MP40s, but they do more damage than any other Wehrmacht MP40, so they can actually do some serious damage. Additionally, they still retain tactical assaults or tactical advantage, still do some damage for that. The G43 upgrade, if you say using elite troops, now gives them 4 G43s. And the Panzerschreck upgrade goes from 75 to 60 munitions. That becomes a bit more useful as well. Additionally, worth noting, the MP40 upgrade is free. Basil seems really upset because he can't get some chicken, so my apologies to that. That cat loves chicken. Absolutely goes bananas for it. So I'm afraid I can't really do much about that because that chicken is not for me, so I can't really hand it out to him. Anyways, Stormtroopers also gain self-healing in Veterans Who Won, and they also gain access to booby traps. So that is some bigger changes there, of course, as well. On top of everything else, the 250 half-track, it gains a machine gun, and also can reinforce it. Veterans Who Won, it actually gains veterancy, and shut up, Basil. And can also dig in, basically allowing its machine gun to suppress. So those are some major changes there. And least but not last, Assault and Hold is an ability which basically boosts the accuracy of all your infantry by 25%, allows to grab territory much faster. So that can allow to launch some really big assaults, particularly if you use it in conjunction with the Stormtroopers and some other bits there. You can lay down some heavy fire very fast. I'm sure that'll be fun to use, at least personally. And of course that will affect a bunch of other doctrines. I mean, Mechanized Assault benefits from both the half-track buff and the Stugi buff. Big one there, probably see some more usage because of that. Any doctrine, of course, with Sector Assault, which is, or Sector Artillery, is Festering Support, gains a slight buff from that as well, since again, hey, that's nicer. Though, of course, not really a lot of the doctrines beyond that benefit from it. Pack for the Feast, by the way, also forgot to mention that one. The Pack for the Free gains the ability to scuttle itself, meaning if you got in a position it's not useful anymore, you can actually just abandon it. You get some of the resources back, so of course that benefits stuff like joint operations as well, and Fort Festering Armor. I don't think they change all the Pack for the Feast as the bunker combo. That could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like that from an immediate perspective. Though, of course, that would be pretty big in its own way as well. Of course, Stormtroopers means Encirclement gains some benefits. Note also Storms can decap territory faster, and they get incendiary grenades to good versus captured, so slight buff in a sense for that one. And of course, Elite Troops also benefits from this just a bit. Mechanized, of course, with the 250 half-track also gains some additional advantages. So, lots of changes as well for the Wehrmacht. Several doctrines that are affected, though nowhere near as much as the Soviet ones, which again benefit from just the shock troopers and the KVH, which is just in so many doctrines, well, getting buffed. So yeah, some notable changes for the Wehrmacht. Personally, again, I'm mostly looking forward to German infantry. I imagine a lot of people will be having a go with defensive doctrine. And that's sort of, roughly sort of an overview here. Of course, again, once the final patch notes out, I'll be going through those more specifically. Again, this is sort of a rough overview, and there's some bits in there forgetting, particularly because I have to keep listening to Basil meowing up because he can't get the chicken. Oh no! Whatever shall that fluffy little bastard do, right? But no, sort of a rough overview here to get you sort of clued in as to what's going to happen once the patch hits, either again today or tomorrow, or later on. I don't know the specifics. So there you go. Hope you all get up excited and ready here for the next bit of company heroes once that patch hits anytime now. This is Imperial Lane signing off, and see you all. Cheers.